yeah, I would have went with Andy down to Portland as well, but obviously chose hockey at that moment. And then that was probably the next year. Hockey was more important to me. Working out, not playing as much golf. Tried to play some Alberta junior golf and did not play well, obviously. So you sort of started to not put the focus on that and focusing more on something else. But so yeah, I got out of golf till probably I was probably like 18.
Our guest today is Trevor Ellerman, owner and general manager of Desert Blume in Medicine Hat. Trev has nearly 30 years of experience in the industry, and in a previous life played some pretty high-level hockey in Europe and CIAU, as it used to be called, I think, and in the WHL. We'll explore lots of those parts. I want to talk lots about your passion for the game, and I think Troy's comment on in one of his questions is how easy it is to draw you into a conversation about golf, and then a little bit about the ins and outs of owning and managing a golf course. I think lots of people, that would be their dream, and we'll find out whether that is a dream job or not.
Yeah, sometimes they're dreaming of the reality.
Mose is with us here today, and Troy he says he has an eye infection and he's not able to present himself on camera today. I told him he could FaceTime in.
When we do in our call-in questions, maybe we'll get Troy on the line.
Yeah. We'll have our first caller.
Right, yeah.
We could do that.
Yeah.
Phone session, I like it.
All right, Trev, welcome to the show. It's been another long golf season. I think we could probably even figure out a way to play today. I think up in Calgary, I was up there just the other day. They were up playing on winter greens in Calgary. They're just so pumped because of the weather. So
yeah, the weather, you never know. We obviously was a long season. Everyone looks forward to that closing date, but now for us, I think if we could have this weather last weekend, we definitely would have went. But once we get her put to bed, that's good for us.
Right, and that's a big job too, right?
Yeah, and it's it's more from our end. Like, we're always looking at revenue, but then you got the grounds guys. They like to take it a little bit easier and be a little more cautious. And I think for the course's sake, over the long haul, it's nice to get her put to bed and let the winter start to take over and keep her in good shape, because it definitely helps in the spring.
Yeah, it's probably better to err on the side of caution.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, there comes a point too with even revenue generation at this point in time where it's maybe 80% members, and on some of the days there's actually not even tee times available for the public, so you're not really generating that type of revenue. You're just helping some members get their 150th, 190th round, so which they enjoy, but at some point there's a cutoff.
Yeah. So we said this about our 11th episode, probably the 9th one with guests, and one of Troy's questions was around why do we have so many people from Redcliff? And if you run through the lists, or the list,
Bugsy,
Weary, Trevor now,
SP was on the Banded one. Yeah.
I think it's like a small town idea where, especially growing up, and I think if in ideas of that, I think you lose some of that sight in over probably the last 20 years of how towns have gotten away, particularly maybe in Saskatchewan. But you grow up in a small town, you kind of hang out with all the different people, and then you do a lot of different stuff as well. So there's all kinds of different sports. You're able to play on the baseball team. You're able to play at the golf course because it's a 10-minute bike ride away. Yeah. You're able to, get on all the different hockey teams that are there and street hockey, and you know everybody. So I think there's that whole idea of in that small town how you were able to do and be athletic, I think, to a degree, and enjoy that. Basketball courts, played everything. Yeah. Volleyball, played on the volleyball team too, because there's only 10 people that can physically play or will play, so you always have an opportunity to get into all these different sports.
So lots of opportunity. Do you think is there something about small town drive too, or?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think you just first you have the opportunity to play because again, in hockey, we were growing up, there was, there's only 15 to 18 kids, and eventually you had to pull kids from Medicine Hat to play to make a team. So anyone that wanted to play on the hockey team in Redcliff growing up got to play a pretty high level, like would play what we called the Spud League at that time. Maybe would have been maybe single or double A now, but so you had that opportunity. You could play. You just had to want to. And so there was no fear of getting cut because there was only 17 players.
Yeah.
So, and I think when it goes into volleyball, I remember getting recruited to play volleyball in junior high because there was 7 guys. I never played volleyball in my life, so so now I'm playing volleyball. And then I think our last year I think we won the league championship my last year. But we're all athletes. We're all getting to play all these different sports, and same with the baseball, same with golf, and everything was more, I'd say, handy. And back then, in the small town, or obviously, well, maybe in the bigger city too, but we didn't have fear of at 8 a.m. see you, Mom. Yeah. Be home for supper at 5 p.m. Okay, see you then. Yeah. And then at 6 p.m. we're heading back out, and we're kind of biking all over this town and going and playing sports and setting up stuff all day long. So it was kind of like that all summer long. Yeah. My whole growing up. Yeah. Until I actually got hooked on golf, which when I was about 12 years old, and then all of a sudden I kind of welded myself to the golf course quite a bit. But
was there a time when you when you were younger, did you identify as a hockey player or just as an athlete, and then at some point you're like,
interesting enough, I always loved hockey, so hockey was my first passion. And as I was growing up, we had the golf course, and I used to play, we had sand greens till I was about 11, and I played down at Medicine Hat at 1 year, and then I think I was 12, and then the following year we got grass greens at Redcliff. And I remember the first day we went out, I think it was in kind of like July 1st or something, and we went out on the course, we heard it's open, and so 4 of us go, and my cousin and a couple other guys, and we head out to the course, and there's nobody there. And we're playing, and we see a guy on the grounds. We think he's going to come and kick us off because is it even open? Should we be out here? There's not a soul on here, which then led us into the whole thing of where we would just continue to go. We'd walk, and just in 9 holes, we'd play nothing to play 54, 63, 72 holes in a day.
Wow. And it was just 9 holes then.
And it was 9 holes then, and you're just walking around. The clubhouse was located at the course now, if anyone didn't know, but it was located down towards where the grounds, where the snack shack is. There was a little clubhouse there from the original 9-hole green sand green course. So you'd go down there and grab a pop or try to break in and steal a pop or whatever at the time. They had a little, we didn't do that, but some of the older kids were smarter. They had it was pay as you go, or the honor system. Yeah. So it was at that time, I think it was $2 or $4 for 9 holes, and you just threw it in a little. There's a little safe thing there that you drop the money in and money drop, and we got to play for. We had memberships, so we just continued to play. And there was, for the first probably 2 years that I was there, I don't know, during the day, Monday to Friday, if I ever seen anyone.
Wow,
it was crazy.
So Riverview really took off then, though. The trajectory of that, from going from sand greens to grass greens to building out the other 9, wasn't that long of a time span then.
Yeah, actually, it was. So 1980 was the first. Would have been the first year. I think it was 81. The first year of the golf course. Was grass, and so before that it was sand greens, 9-hole sand greens. Pretty neat little layout it was at sand greens, and then they got the course going 9 holes, and then it would have been in 91, so about 10 years later, that they got the back 9 going. So in those first few years, I don't even know how they would have made it work, because there was literally, I'm sure there was members out there, and they probably played on weekends during the day, but I know Monday to Friday when we played, there was literally nobody there during the day.
Could you imagine if you had a step counter back then? So you're walking 63 holes, you say some days.
Yeah, right.
You had 30, 40,000 steps.
Oh my God, I can't even imagine. Yeah, bike to the course, throw the clubs on my shoulder, bike down there. Yeah, play 63 holes, bike home at 6 at night, and then would now where I'm thinking like it's a tough time just to walk from the car to the clubhouse to get out to the.
You're calling one of the back shop boys to come pick you up in a cart.
Absolutely, and then especially at Desert Blume where you're sort of. It's not a walking course.
Yeah.
Although we did walk a little bit this year, and I know some of the guys try to walk when they're wanting to get in shape and stuff for walking trips. But it's kind of a grind walking out there. But now, I can't imagine that.
How long did it take you to get not just hooked, but to know like I'm pretty good at this?
I think initially we would play, and I think it was 1 year I was playing. I was in Medicine Hat, and I was at the News Junior Golf League. They used to have this golf league in Medicine Hat, and it was probably at the country club. There was probably, wouldn't surprise me if there was like 80 to 100 kids. Mm-hmm. Probably similar to at Connaught at the back in the day when all these junior programs were going. And they had something that would start, and I was playing, and I was shooting in the 50s, and I was only like 10 or 11 years old. Yeah. Then I played through the summer up at Redcliff and at Medicine Hat. I had a membership there because of the grass greens. And by the end, we had this little wind-up thing, and I went out and I shot like 42. So I'd improved maybe 12 shots that summer, and then it started to take off after that, I think. And of course, we don't know how good we are, but I played with these older kids, Jody Campbell and Steve Keats, and they're like 2-3 years older. So my cousin Mike O'Connor, as well, so we would play every day, and then of course you're playing with older kids, so then you're trying to hit it farther, and you're trying to keep up with them, and they do hit it farther, and but I think over the course of about 2 summers, all of a sudden I was shooting in the 70s, and I think I remember beating my dad. I think I shot 71 or 70 when I was like maybe 14. I think it was 14, and then usually lots of junior tournaments around, played in the I think it was called at Connaught. It was the Southeastern
South Zone.
South Zone, 2-day tournament, pretty cool. Long drives, all this fun stuff, and played in that and did fairly well. It was never that good, but I was shooting pretty good at that point, like shooting mid 70s to low 70s. Then 1 year, I think I was 15, and the Alberta Junior was at. It was at Henderson Lake. Okay. And I went there, and that was probably my first big tournament, and I struggled a bit. But we, back then it was 3 rounds, and then you made team trials. So you went team trials, and I think I finished second. I finished second as a 15-year-old, in the 15-year-old age group. Yeah. So that was kind of good. Like all of a sudden, that's pretty good. And then, I went to team trials and made a couple teams. And as a 15-year-old, and this is how then it relates back to what your passion is. So now at that age, I'm playing pretty good hockey too. So playing out of Redcliff, but we had a really good teams, and I think I'm listed maybe on the taggers at one point. They used to have lists, 50-player lists, and I was sort of right on the edge of that. So I had the opportunity to go to Portland Winterhawk Camp. And I didn't go to that because I actually went on a golf, but then Tagger Camp was the week later, but I could have went to Portland to play golf in I think it was the Junior America's Cup, I think it was called at that point. And I had made that team, and I didn't go because I wanted to go to the Tagger Camp. Yeah. And then, so I went to one out in BC. We went to one a golf thing with one of the teams I made, and then the next one I didn't go to because it conflicted. Yeah. And so I chose that route at that moment. Yeah. And then golf was sort of put on the back burner for the next probably 3 years. Yeah. As you pursued what I thought was my real passion. Yeah. Hockey. So, but hockey. I think growing up as a kid, probably not every kid, but a majority of the kids, if you get that bug and you see success at that, that's your dream. Watching TV on every night, and our family, or my dad for sure, was involved in hockey coaching and all that type of stuff. So you sort of grow up in that atmosphere, and and that's sort of what you looked towards doing. So I had some opportunity to do that, and so that's what I thought where I would be good. But then eventually you start to see as there's an age point or a growth point where suddenly guys are starting to separate themselves. And I might have separated myself when I was about 15, and then by 17, guys were starting to separate from me. So then you start to see a difference of level of ability where certain guys have it, like a Trevor Ellerman, who I played a couple of years with, is totally different than what my capability or just ability in general was going to be. So you start to see that quickly, and then you start to reevaluate where you're really going to get to do in life.
I was expecting you had a question.
No.
So I like that's an interesting timeline to me because I would think about I didn't know lots of those parts about you as like 15 and under as a golfer, because I would have been 13 or 14 at the time, just kind of taking up the game, and then so when I get to that a little bit older group, and kind of your contemporaries would have been Andy Fox and Mark Torgerson and those guys, so I would have known all those guys, but you had kind of gone away from that local golf scene.
Yeah, for sure. So that when I was 15, and name that you would know, Carson Aykroyd. So he was, I think he was at a Red.
SP, he lived with him.
Yeah, that's right. So that's where all that was. He was. It was sort of me and him. He finished first, and then he ended up not. I don't think he did as well at the team trials, but Andy Fox did, and so me and Andy, who was at Medicine Hat at the time, we went to Vancouver with the one team. Okay. There's myself and Andy, and I don't remember the two other gentlemen, but and then I would have went with Andy down to Portland as well, but obviously chose hockey at that moment, and then that was probably the next year. Hockey was more important to me. You're working out, not playing as much golf. Tried to play some Alberta junior golf and did not play well, obviously. So you're sort of starting to not put the focus on that and focusing more on something else. But I got out of golf till probably I was probably like 18. Yeah. Then I kind of started to get back into it.
And so, was that at around the same time as you're deciding, I'm not sure I'm going to pursue this hockey thing in the same way? Yeah,
I think sometimes hockey gets decided for you in a sense at that age. So you sort of, you get basically, maybe they tell you or you see the writing on the wall. A couple different times that's happened to me. I could see it happening. So we was with the Tigers. Funny story, like how it all goes. So I'm with the Tigers as a 17-year-old. I get sent down. Obviously, this is their first Memorial Cup win of the year. So they have a good team. They have lots of good players. And I don't really know. I just like to play hockey. So I can see I'm not as good as these guys. But the opportunity nowadays, you would be with the team and you would sort of get the experience. But back then, it was all kind of new. And I don't even know if they knew. They had a couple guys they probably only had 2 extra guys. And I was practicing with the team. But I didn't get a lot of communication. I didn't know what to expect. And I'm a local guy, and they don't. So they haven't brought me in, and they're not really housing me or anything. I'm just staying at my parents' house and going to practice every afternoon, like I did, because I was there for the first half of the year till Christmas, and then I went back to the AAA team, and then they called me up at the end of the year to kind of help be around the team and stuff. But at one point, I kind of got disillusioned, and I'm kind of sitting around. I'm like, I don't think I want to come practice anymore. This doesn't make sense to me. I know I'm not going to play. Yeah. And they're going through it, and I'm kind of just being in the way, not understanding that this is part of what this is how you grow into maybe having the opportunity. So I'm starting to work. I worked on the ground screw at Redcliff, and job's coming up. It's May 1, and my boss, because I'd worked there the summer before, he comes and says, "Yeah, geez, you ready to work?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure. Might as well start working." Like, when can you work? Well, I can work every 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock every day. Practice at 2 o'clock, so I just stopped going to practice and started working, and maybe that was telling me something too. So I decided, So then, funny story going forward. All of a sudden, we're winning, and at the time, and it's getting close. Like, we're in the WHL finals, championships. They're playing, and they end up winning. So boom, they're off to Memorial Cup. Some people I know from Medicine Hat go, geez, I seen your name was on the roster, but you never showed up. You never come. I was like, geez, I didn't realize I was part of that. I was like, so there goes my first ring, my first opportunity for a ring. I could have been a passenger and at least got the ring. And sure enough, that passed me by, and so I missed that opportunity. Next year, go back to camp and kind of get off to a slow start. But worked out all summer, but not the right ways. Didn't have the actual. I think back then, as you would know, you don't always have we didn't have YouTube and didn't have videos and didn't have personal coaches, and you sort of did stuff based on maybe what you thought or what your buddy was doing, on how you worked out, and not necessarily working out the right, not cardio, not leg strength, not core strength, more upper body. I remember walking into camp and one of the managers said, "What were you doing all summer? It looks like did you just work out, or were you juicing it, or what's going on?" I'm like, "Well, I just worked out every day for 2 hours. So obviously, I did too much upper body." So then, so I got back there, get off to a slow start, and wasn't working out. I could see it wasn't happening. So I asked for a trade, got traded to Regina, and then had a little stint there, and then got cut from there. Doug Sauter they were struggling. They were, winning, got to win. So getting players in and out to see what the winning formula was for them, and then come back here and started playing hockey for the Cubs.
Right.
Which is when I found my true love of hockey, actually, I think.
Yeah.
It was more recreational type that way.
With another Redcliff legend that we had on the show, Timmy Hall.
Yes. So
never
Timmy,
forgot
yeah.
about
yeah,
Timmy.
so Timmy was he's a couple years younger than me. So
Right.
my first introduction, of course, him and Tim's brother Mike and myself were really good friends growing up. Played hockey together, lots of stuff together in the summer, and then once I was finished hockey, so now we're on the Cubs and we're having a good time, and now I start golfing again. And I always worked at the grounds crew, so the golf course is growing. It's starting to grow. We actually end up getting a golf pro. We had a few smaller guys, but they brought in a guy from Edmonton. His name was Mike Anderson. Yeah. And so that's our first real golf pro. Like, we've had some other guys, George Killam, Russ Farrell was there for, overseeing stuff.
George Killam.
Yeah. Bert Stevenson used to help out in the pro shop. Yeah, all these guys, right? And I mean, some teachers, Rick Carrier and Martin Hogan at that moment in time also helped out around the club, like in the pro shop areas and stuff. But now we had a golf pro, like an actual legit golf pro who's a really good player, great guy. And then I started golfing more, and now I started becoming good again, playing with the Cubs. So I had these guys, Dave Mortar and Todd Ammon. For the first year I played for the Cubs, I didn't even know Dave had a job, but he worked full-time at Goodyear, but he had so much time off, just the way it worked out. And then Ken Solheim, and Ken was a little bit older, but he worked at Goodyear then, obviously a really good hockey player. So we used to play golf like 3-4 times a week. And then I started getting back into golf, and my handicap was probably about a 6 when I got back into it. Well, by the end of that first summer, I was down to a 2 or a 1. Yeah. And then started to compete a little bit in some of the championships. Won the club championship, the men's open at Redcliff. And then my favorite story is with Bart's, playing the club or the Redcliff Open, and first time I ever broke 70. Yeah. And I'm playing with Bart's, and it's 9 holes twice at that moment. It's probably 1988 or 89, somewhere in there. And first day we go out, me, Bart's, and a couple other guys playing. So we go and I think I shot 34, and I was just like, wow, just like making every freaking putt there is. And Bart's is like, just, kind of.
Because I don't know, he wouldn't have probably seen anybody break 70 before.
Well, yeah, I don't even know. I hadn't broken 70. Yeah. So, and back then, I think good golf was like around 70. You shoot 70 or 71. Because even like Kelly Risling, who's a legend, right? Winning everything that you win. I think actually at that moment, and maybe it was the equipment too,
right?
Might not have led itself to maybe shoot those, and maybe the conditions, to shoot those that good of scores. Where nowadays, like it's like I've shot my best scores of my life in the last probably 10 years. Yeah, maybe I'm more mature or something, but when you think about it or hit it, that is back then. Like even as I got into more competitive golf, the ability to shoot. Like if I shot 70 in competitive golf 18 years ago, I was in the top 5.
Right. Yeah.
Now if I shoot 70 in a tournament, if I go to a PGA tournament or Alberta PGA tournament, shoot 70, I'm like 25th.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just how it's evolved and maybe the skill levels, but different reasons for that. But anyways, I shot 68 with Bart's that time. I was like, wow, what a great, and I'm in the final group. And back then it's like the old, it still happens a little bit, but then, you know, particularly in Redcliff, there would be, you play that last day and I'm playing with Kelly and Corey Elephant. And I think I was playing with Terry Zachary in that round too. Of course, I'm like, this is my first time playing in obviously a final group. There's like probably 50 people following us, and I'm just like freaking sweating. Like just every shot is just a grind. Anyways, I ended up losing by, I think I hit it out of bounds in the 17th hole to lose by 2. And I was right there in a hunt, and 17th hole would have been the 8th hole.
Par 3.
Par 3, tough hole, out of bounds, hard right, 220. So yeah, kind of come off it and hit it right. The next year I ended up beating, I think I beat Kelly in a playoff. So come full circle. So that was good. But that one experience of getting there, and then the next year was able to do that. Yeah. And then after that, after I won that second time, Mike approached me about being a golf pro, and that's when I started becoming a golf pro. Had worked 5 years on the grounds, had a lot of experience. Yeah. At that time, our groundskeeper, he left, and they actually asked me to become the groundskeeper. Like they said, do you want to be the assistant, go to school? And I was like, I don't think that's what I want to do.
So instead of groundskeeper Willie, they had groundskeeper Elly.
Yeah, yeah. So we were, when I remember on the new 9, it was, the best part about that is I was all working on the ground. So I was like the number 2 guy. I was like 17, 18 years old at the time on the grounds and working. So it was a great job, 6 to 2. You worked on the grounds. It's such a great summer job. You have at 2:00 you go golf, do whatever you want.
There are lots of mornings even now where I see somebody on a mower and I think I could do that.
That's not a bad retirement job. Guy likes getting up early, get it out of your system, and
listen to podcasts.
That's right. Yeah, keep you awake. So yeah, there I was on the grounds. We're the back 9, so we had this quad. I'd never driven a quad in my life, but we had one there. I don't know why. Obviously, it was to get places fast. It was the guy that was watering usually drove the quad. Well, I'd be on the quad on that back 9, just zipping around all over the place. Nobody's out there because it's closed yet. It's not even open. So those were fun times back then. But then, I became a golf pro at that moment. 19 years old, I was my first year. Yeah. And that's when I got introduced to Timmy more. Right. So I always knew Timmy growing up, but then he's working in the pro shop already for a year. Yeah. And then me and him started working together. So we had lots of good stories from working as the assistant golf pros to Mike.
Had you taken any golf lessons to that point?
You know, I was just a natural. My dad was a pretty good golfer. I played a lot of golf, so you sort of trial and error. We had some generic group lessons, but nothing really big there. Like it was mostly would be like a lesson through, if you had it'd be a bigger group lesson through that junior program. So no individual lessons, probably never, other than what my dad would have helped me with individually.
And like, what it would have been like, you had mentioned about hockey, like, there wasn't YouTube and all that stuff. So was it kind of the same thing in golf? Like there wasn't that many people getting lessons at that time, or?
Exactly. Well, until Mike got there. So Mike did give lessons. But I never got lessons from him. I'd already sort of had my own way of doing it or whatever. Maybe it wasn't exactly perfect. I think I've learned more about the golf swing probably since COVID with a simulator and watching YouTube videos and seeing how the simulator over the last 5 years, the numbers and the ball flights actually changed my whole outlook of a golf swing. But back then, we didn't even have a range at that moment. And then eventually we did get a range just right around that time. So you could never really didn't really hit balls. You just kept playing. Yeah. And then practice chipping and putting. So really, short game was good. Mm-hmm. And then just try to keep it in play and then get used to Redcliff small greens so your iron play gets good. But mostly more trial and error of what I thought. So, a few hints here and there, and then some help from my dad. I think overall that was probably how it went down.
And Mike's pretty influential on you and Timmy for like kind of setting your career path then, or?
I think so. Yeah, I think we both learned a lot from Mike. He was, back then it's like everything. Oh, wait, you should have seen how it was back then. But basically, we were making $1,000 a month, working like 50 hours a week. Yeah. And I mean,
6 on, 1 off.
6 on, 1 off.
And teach lessons on the day off.
And doing clopens, like the old clopen, close open. So you work 2 to 10 and then 6 to 2. It's like, wow, this is a great time.
Try to fit in some golf in between.
Yeah, fitting in golf and you're grinding there a bit. So you learn that side of the business. And lots of, because obviously he was my first golf pro boss, so you'd learn a lot for sure. And had lots of fun with it. So we used to have a good membership back then, and still have one there out of Redcliff. Lots of core people, lots of Redcliff people that have a lot of pride in the golf course and stuff. So, of course, me being from Redcliff, growing up in Redcliff, knew all these people. And my dad knew all these people. So we had a lot of respect that way for everybody and sort of knew everybody. So it was definitely fun to be a part of that. And but you do, one of the harder parts is you would golf every day, and then once you start working in a golf shop, you do not golf every day to a point where you feel like when you have the opportunity, it's like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. So you actually don't golf. You choose not to golf, and then your actually golf game gets a little bit worse, which is where sort of mine went.
I feel like you're talking into a mirror. Right?
Yes, yeah, that's right. As we know, you did sort of the same thing. Yeah. So, but all that time, so I played for the Cubs, and we used to still played some hockey. And then that one year, I went to thinking more about education. So I was at the college, and a couple of my buddies, Jeff Rosane and Darren Hirsch, were going to Lethbridge for school, and I started thinking about it. I thought I should go to Lethbridge. I think I need to get away and go to school and start trying to figure it out, because I wasn't sure about golf being my career, and seemed okay, but not maybe the opportunities that maybe I was hoping for. So I went to the university. So that would have been like 1989. So now I'm 19 years old. I still had a year left with the Cubs, which then I would have got to play with Timmy that year. So they were pretty good that year I left, but they all thought I was done. I could have played one more year.
Okay.
And I think they were probably close to winning provincials that year. I think they lost out in the final or semifinal, and I probably would have been able to help them get the win. I had been, I think I was the leading scorer on the team the year before and stuff like that. So I'd always done that well. So I think I probably would have helped them do that. But I ended up going to Lethbridge, the university team.
And did you play for the Pronghorns right away?
I did, yeah. So that was a good story as well. So I showed up. I just walked on. I had played junior B, so they wouldn't have. I knew one guy, Greg McDonald. Yeah. So Greg McDonald's like, I'm thinking to myself, if Greg McDonald could play on that team. Greg was a good player, but just knowing my pedigree and my work ethic of wanting to play, like loving to play hockey, if he can make that team, I know I can make this team. But it was tough. My first practice, we went out and the guys are bigger, stronger. You're playing against adults now, like 25-year-old guys, and that first practice, because you're coming from junior B, and obviously your will to compete in junior B is the only reason you're playing sometimes is because you know after the game you're going right to the bar and you play hockey, so it's kind of cool with all the girls and all the guys, and you get to walk into the bar after and don't have to stand in line because you played for the Cubs. Yeah. So now I'm going to university, and there's a lot different compete level, a lot different expectation of what being in shape is. And I remember the first night we had, so I'm hanging out with my roommates, Rosie and Hershey. And
wow, I can't even imagine how you're living this.
Yeah, so we have no chance, and they're all they're up on all the parties, and there's the practice is Saturday morning at 10 a.m. But there's the first, even before then, I think it was the last year, because eventually they built a nice bar there. But there were some buildings as you come into the, obviously they're not there now, but they're like little Quonset buildings.
Okay, yeah.
And it was, and that was the first, whatever you'd call like a little, it was a school, like a school bar.
Right.
or
Like eventually the
dance,
zoo
yeah.
gets
The zoo. It'd be similar to the zoo.
Right.
But this is over, like, as you first come in, it would be in the second parking lot. There was some buildings there, and that's where it is. And this is on a Friday night, so this is kind of like everybody's going out, and I go out, of course, and can't thinking, well, I always went out and on the Cubs. I used to go out for day before a game. I was notorious for maybe missing curfew, so obviously there's no curfew. So we're out till like 1 or 2 in the morning, and then I get up the next morning, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know if I want to do this. I better go do it. I want to try it out. I still want to play hockey. So I go out, and I'm frickin', it is like I'm leaking sweat, and I'm after the game, after the practice, I'm puking, and it's like, this is like, okay, Jesus, do I really want to do this? Because if I'm going to do this, I better smarten up, because this isn't going to work out. Anyways, we get going. The team isn't very good. I make the team. We're not a lot of good players. I think we only had 25 guys show up to try out. So had the opportunity to make the team, and then kind of started playing from there. And eventually worked myself into better conditions, so I didn't get
So
sick after
who was
practice.
the coach at that time?
So the coach, and probably fortunate too, my coach was, and this is where we lead into Mo's. My coach is Dave Adolph.
Okay.
So he was had come from the U of S, was an assistant coach at I think at before that, and had an opportunity to be the head coach. So he come to U of L. So that was his first year. So he was looking for some different guys as well, and so I had the opportunity to play for Dave for 4 years, and I would have to credit him for giving me the opportunity. So I always tell the story of how some people, if they don't want to go, well, I think I need to go to a good school, a better school, like a school that's really good. And it's if I had went to Calgary or U of S or U of A, I would never have played university hockey. And then 5 years later, we get to win a national championship. If you ever looked up the records, I think I'm in the top 10 in scoring in Canada West, and all that from a walk-on guy from playing junior B that would have never, ever had the opportunity to play. I would never have played if I would have went to any other school and tried out. I wouldn't have made it. I wouldn't have got past the first cuts because they would have seen me puking in the corner. Not have been a good thing.
So did that coach end up going back
Yeah,
to U of S?
he went back to U of S, so I had him for 5 years there. Yeah.
And did you guys ever face off against each other?
No.
No, I think we just missed. Yeah.
Yeah. So what year was your fifth year?
My fifth year was the 93, 94.
Yeah. And I think I was 95, 96. So maybe been one season between us.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Cause yeah, Dave went back, you guys won. And I think he had another year and then I came.
yeah,
So
that's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and yeah, Dave was awesome. For me, I think anytime you have a takeover, some of the old guys didn't quite, because they were there for trying to play out their years and enjoy playing hockey. And as things are trying to change, you get sort of have to make some tough choices with some of the older guys, and they don't get to play as much or don't make the team. Mm-hmm. So then when Dave left, that was now I'm living the same thing as these guys, and I seen what they went through. So I had a lot of anxiety going back. It was my fifth year. Our team was decent at that point, but I could have graduated. I just wasn't ready to move on yet, so I was enjoying myself, taking all the university life in, and so I thought, I'll come back and I'll take a few classes. I was an accounting major, so I thought, maybe I'll try to get my CA designation classes. So I had to take tax and all this stuff, and so I thought, I'll try that, and I'll play hockey. I want to play hockey and just have one more year before I see the real world. And so and then we get a new coach. So that's shocking. And his name is Mike Babcock. And of course, I don't know him from nothing, but he comes in and he sets the tone. And he's, my dealings with Mike are amazing. Obviously, we won a national championship at the end of it. So anytime you win, everything's always good. But we had some run-ins at the start, some good ones. And my biggest fear was not getting to play. And we had those talks where it's like, I just want to play hockey, man. Like, just let me play. I'm here. I know what I can do. I've played with, I've done well in the league. So I think I can help the team still. And if you give me the opportunity, I think I can do that. You don't have to set an example of me. Just let me go. And in the meantime, I'm also going to be the head of your going out team. I'll show all the guys around. Make sure they're all well acclimatized to life beyond hockey, and so we had a good understanding, and then obviously everything took off for us there. But my favorite story there, a good story. We're in the preseason, of course. Where I played with the year before. I played with Greg Gatto and Dana McKechnie, and we were good. I had played with Dana a couple of years before that. He got the league rookie of the year, and then that year, I played the year before my last year. I played with Greg and Dana, and Greg got the rookie of the year. So I played with 2 rookies of the year, Canada West, and we're good. Like, we're a good line. So we're playing in the preseason, and we're freaking lighting it up. Like, we're good. Like, you can start to see, like, we're getting older. Like, we got 5 guys that are like 25 years old. Like, now we're playing against these guys like 19 and 20-year-olds, as you know, in that league. It makes a huge difference. Like, it's men against boys to a degree. And every time we're on the ice, we score a goal. Well, and suddenly the coach is like, he's not really playing us, not playing me. And I'm like, what the hell's going on here? It's driving me crazy. Like, because I'm coming into camp, I'm not in shape. I'm like, I got a month. I got a month from September 1st till we start regular season games October 6th or whatever it is. That's my month. That's training camp. This is training camp. This is old school hockey. This is like the 70s NHL, right? Just I wasn't smoking in between periods. But so here we are. So we're going, I'm not playing. I'm like, what is going on? Like, this is killing me. Like, come on, man. So this one game we're playing, and every time we're on the ice, two shifts, 1 period, scored 2 goals, and I'm not playing much, a couple points, but get a penalty, and Elly, go serve the penalty. I'm like, I get over the boards. I kind of stretch, do my thing, saunter over to the penalty box, serve the penalty, come in, and Mike he's pissed off. Like, he's not having any of this. Like, you don't show me up. So after that shit, after the period, he's like, what is going on? And I'm like, well, I just want to play. Like, if you don't want me to play, then cut me. But otherwise, I think I can help the team. And if you want me to play me. That's all I want. Was Elly, come on. We're in game 4. We're in the preseason. I'm trying to evaluate the other 10 guys. You're on the team. I don't need to see you play. I know what you can do. I know you're going to score. I know you're going to do this. It's going to be all right. Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, I just didn't want to get left behind. So after we had that little discussion, everything was good. And then we had one other one. Is like, he comes to me and goes, you know what? I think for the best of the team, I got to switch your lines. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, we're the freaking best line in the league. Like, we're like these 2 guys. Like we dominate. Like, we're dominant. Yeah. So, no, I think if we move you over to these guys, I think we can have 2 good lines. I'm like, well, I'll try it out. But I mean, if it doesn't work after a week or 2, like, you can't just, this can't be just the way it is. Like, we got to make sure. So anyways, I get moved to a different line. So I play with Jared Zakuski and Perry Neufeld.
Zakuski, yes. I was trying to remember who started with his Ed, because Yellowegg was on that team.
Yellowegg was on the team. It's a good story too. I get these hockey stories. But yes, so he was on the teams my first 4 years, and then he didn't come back that year because he was in phys ed. He was sort of doing his practicums, and Shane Mazatunik was the same way, doing his practicums. So those are 2 pretty good players that we lost out that would have probably could have helped our team or made us better in some ways, but maybe not for the camaraderie of the team. Yeah. Maybe didn't generate the same positiveness that way. But good friends that I played 4 years with and played on their lines at various times, and they didn't come back. But so we, anyways, I moved lines. First weekend we go out. I think it's our last weekend of we're up in Calgary playing in the state tournament, and we freaking light this up because now I'm getting to play. Yeah. Now he needs to see this new line. So we just we get like 4 or 5 points every game. Like, just wow. And then we start the league season, and we're just take off. So then me and Jarrett were pretty good. He was a really good player, good goal scorer.
Yeah. Him and Gatto, I would have played against, and those guys were really good. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. By that time, you would have played a couple of years against them for sure. Yeah, exactly. And just a goal scorer, just a nose on how to score goals. Get the puck inside the blue line and scores. Yeah, every time. So anyways, that took off and everything was good then. We were all happy.
Well, I was at U of L then, and we watched that final game, and I can remember Randy Gregg was the color commentator, and he used that phrase, man with boys, but he was just talking about you. Because that final game, you were unbelievable. You were like stick handling inside a phone booth.
I think
making people look silly.
And funny when we look back at that, because through the year we were pretty good and we got off to a great start. And then the problem we had is back then, and I don't know how it was at U of S, but we didn't have the facilities we didn't have bikes and or anything like that in the rink. And through the years, we just didn't do that. Like we didn't work out during the season. So Mike seen that early, I think, and so we had these practices on Monday, and it wasn't like a old-fashioned bag skate. It was the highest tempo practice that you could ever imagine. To the point, the first couple times we did it, guys were getting sick. It was that hard. But it was pucks and drills, but it was set up so intense and so high tempo that we just got in better shape. Not knowing what we were doing, that it was happening. Yeah. It was and it just kept pushing and pushing, and we just got better and better. And then in the playoffs, we face U of R in the first round. We go 3 games. We go to double OT in 2 of them. And by that third game, I mean, that's Sunday afternoon games, 2:00 game. You just played 2 nights. You went, we didn't go OT did we go OT the first game? We lost the first game straight up. And that was an awakening because we had been out on the Thursday night having a and then on Saturday we went to OT and won, and then on Sunday we went to double OT and won. So we get through that series, tough series, and then we play UFC the next weekend. First week, we didn't go out that week. We went on that Sunday night. We went to my house and we lit it up pretty good after that game. But after that first victory,
was McCully living with you at this point?
He wasn't living with me. He was living with Rosie.
Oh, now he's
because we had moved out and I moved into a house. I know Rosie was pretty disappointed, I think, at that time. I thought for my whole experience, I needed 1 year just different. I had 4 years with Rosie, which I learned a lot and had a lot of good times. Some great stories I could tell about that. So we have a party after that. It was good times. And then, so the next week we go to UFC or UFC comes in and it is off the rails in the city. Like the rink is full. Like, I mean, I think it's standing room only, sold out way in advance. We win the first game in OT, scored the winning goal, so that was good. We lose the next one, tough one. So we win 2-1, we lose 3-2, and then we win 2-1. Wow. Scored a game winner in the third game with about 8 minutes left, longest 8 minutes ever after that. Just watch. And then, I mean, Trevor Kruger, the goalie, was unbelievable. Yeah. Whole team was good. So pretty cool experience.
And was Babe the backup then?
Babe was the backup, yeah. Great guy. Yeah. Loved Derek Babe. Yeah. Knew him played with him in Medicine Hat for years and then had the opportunity to play with him there. So he was a great guy. Accepted his role good there. And obviously Trevor Kruger was a Memorial Cup winner. And difference maker. So, so that was pretty cool. And then we go to Nationals. So
where was Nationals at?
So the Nationals is in Toronto at Maple Leaf Gardens. We set up, and of course we come in from the West, and I mean we just had 2 series that are just freaking as good as you can play and as hard as you can play. And so that's when all of a sudden now we're even in better shape because we've just played 2 of the hardest series of hockey we've played ever. Like it's grueling, like no room on the ice, just physical and hard and just tough. So we get there and we play our first game. We're playing against Acadia. So they put Acadia was number 1 and we were number 2. And they did that because they wanted an Ontario team because there was 2 Ontario teams on the other side playing. And they did that. Of course, Acadia doesn't think much of us. And it's like they had won the year before. I think they won in the final 10-1. They beat someone in the final and were the defending champions. So we get off to a terrible start. We're down 3-1 early, like just deer in headlights. Like, no, I can't move, like thinking, man, these guys are like we're standing still. We're just stuck. Anyways, and I'll remember it. And it's even when you watch the game, you can see a point. But Mike says, "What do you want to do? Should we call timeout?" I said, "There's no way we're calling a timeout against these guys. We are not letting them show we're scared. We're going out. You better win this shift." I said, "We are going to win this shift." We go out, we create a penalty, win the shift, get a penalty, get a power play, score a goal, 3-2. And then we just took off once we got that. And then we just slowly gained the confidence and just beat them down. And then really after, as the game was going on, it's like, you know what? Like, I think we played the two hardest teams. We played them coming out of Canada West.
Right. Yeah.
And we got into this, and it was easier because we were just in better shape. We were quicker, and we were just stronger. And it was, we knew at that moment, once we settled in, that if we just played Horns hockey, we knew we would win. And that's sort of what happened. So, yeah, it's a cool experience.
And then who'd you have in the final?
We played Guelph in the final. We beat them 5-2. Yeah, I remember we watched those games after. There was, I remember Randy Gregg's like, and I had seen Don Cherry on, that guy can shoot. I took a shot in the first game. I never shoot. Like, I'm a playmaker more guy. I shot the odd puck, but not too often. But for whatever reason, you know, things go. It's a 5-on-3, and I remember and I'm not good at one-timers, but he passes it back to me. I don't one-time it. But I hold on to it for a second. For whatever reason, I think I'm going to shoot. So I shoot, and I short shelf this thing from the kind of the top of the circle over Dennis Broxton, who was a Western guy.
Yeah.
And we're playing against Acadia, who's got probably 6 Western guys. So we know some of these guys from the WHL. I remember playing against Kevin Knopp, who was in Medicine Hat on the winning team. So. The Memorial Cup teams, and he was out in Acadia. So anyways, I shoot. So then the next period, I get the puck, I'm going down, and I'm going to get taken out. So I'm about the top of the circle again, and I give it a snapshot, and frick, if I don't shelf it again, a random, right? Like I wouldn't have scored 2 goals like that in probably the previous 4.5 years, right? So all of a sudden, I remember, Don said, look at that Ellerman guy, he can shoot the puck. And I'm like, well, I don't even know if they could. They were fluttering in there. They just hit the right spots. But the next day we had practice, just a little practice, and I'm like there, and I'm like, we were talking about it. I was like, there's no way. I must have took 50 shots from that spot, and I don't even know if I hit the net again, trying to hit top shelf. It was just one of those things, right? But anyways, good times.
A pretty good celebration after that.
Yeah. You could go on. I mean, I couldn't imagine. I always tell the story about that. When you win, like obviously the group you're with becomes your family and friends for life. And when we meet up, and Mose would know that too from success at hockey teams. Some of your best friends, right? You're with those guys for 4 or 5 years in the trenches, and when you win anything to that degree, especially, like those are lifetime friends. You just when I see them, it's like we were there. It's like I seen them yesterday, and we just go off. But we were definitely the kings of Lethbridge for a few, not even a few months. It was a few years.
Did you go back for a 6th year then?
Oh, so funny story.
You're on my program.
Yeah, I sort of did. So we, anyways, like we are loving life. Like we have that trophy. You walk into any bar, drinks are free, fill her up, take it around. Everything's happening. It's so good times. The following year I get a chance to play in Germany. It doesn't quite work out. So I come back for a month or so thinking, well, I'll skate with the team. And it's in December. So I'm skating with the team. And then I got an offer to go to England. So now I'm going to head to England. But I'm in Lethbridge playing with the team or skating, practicing, and still living. Like it's still like champions. Like we're champions. Yeah. The whole team is like on a high. Like, and they were still pretty good. I think they missed obviously a few guys, and then the coach was different. And tell stories about how a different coach and a couple players make a difference. But anyways, come back, yes. Then even to the point that 2 summers later, I remember coming in. I'm like, oh yeah. Well, that summer I come back. We had a golf tournament every year in Lethbridge. So when you went out after the golf tournament, it's like, yeah, I'm at the U of L team. Oh yeah, come on into the bar. Like a big lineup. And then it come full circle for me about 4 years later when I was in the bar and goes, no, we're not letting U of L guys don't. Championship team doesn't get in anymore. I'm like, oh, it was the only people I'm letting in now are golf pros. Oh, well, pulled out my card. I got my assistant pro card. I'm a golf pro too. And he looks at me, and shakes his head. All right, come on in. So that's when I knew that was the official moment that I had changed over from hockey celebrity to a golf pro.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was good. And then all during that time, I was a golf pro. So I'd got my card, and you had to play your way in at that time, shoot a score, and then play your way out to get
Where'd you do your
Class A.
playability at?
I did my playability at, where did I get it at? I got my playability at, I think it was at the Airdrie. Trying to think. Airdrie. And then I played out at, the course isn't even there anymore, but it was like Shawnee Slopes. I think it was. Yeah, I played out there. And I remember playing out because that was stressful.
Yeah.
Because again, you sort of, your golf game was good and now it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And then
It was like 76 or something.
yeah,
right?
to play your way out. Yeah. So the first day it's like 35 degrees in Calgary, and it's just, and I shot like 75, 78. So I miss it by one. Yeah. So now you go back the next day, 36 holes in one day. Yeah. And I shot 74 the first round. So I was pretty good. I was feeling good. And the second round, I'm kind of going, I'm leaking oil. It's like so hot, and we had to walk, and it was a grind.
You found some bar that let the golf pros in the night before.
That's what we should have done.
Electric Ave.
Yeah, no, I was trying to be smart that time, So then, anyways, I got lucky. I hit a shot, made a birdie, then made another birdie out of nowhere. So I make 2 birdies in a row. Now I'm like 1 under the cut line, and I've got 1 hole left, 18, and I basically played it like a par 5, and I hit it up. It wasn't a long hole, but I hit a 3-wood. Then I got it on the green. I only had a wedge in, but I'm like nervous. Like I know, like this is it. Like, so I've got 12 feet. I hit 12 feet. I'm like, I hit my first putt up to like this far, and I'm like, oh my god. I kind of like, because you just get nervous, and because if I miss now, I have to make it. And anyways, I tapped it in, and I got in about under the number. It's like it was stressful. Like that stress of trying to shoot that. I couldn't imagine trying to make the cut on the PGA Tour, because that's that stress where the expectation, especially as a struggling guy or a guy that's trying to get to the next tournament or something like that, to try to make a putt like this far, to ensure that you're in, like just the fear of
and your job, like your career path depends on
like this is it,
this,
right? Yeah, because that year then. That year, I ended up going and playing hockey in Tulsa, and then Mike actually left after I got that, and then I had the opportunity to come back and become the head professional.
Okay.
So that after that, so if I wouldn't have got my Class A then, I probably
you wouldn't have been in that spot.
I would have been able to probably take the job.
Yeah.
So
The pressure on the golf course versus on the ice, different.
Yeah, I think on the golf course, the best part about it is, on the ice, sorry, the best part is that it's not just you, it's your teammates.
Right, yeah.
So there is a pressure, and probably more pressure, like say on a penalty shot or a shootout.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure, but there seems to be a different level of miss. I think, like if it doesn't quite happen for you in hockey, I never felt that fear of missing or losing or not scoring or anything like that for whatever reason, where in golf there is that fear.
Right.
Golf is the ultimate individual sport in that way. You're out there on an island. And I think it's, for me, it was always the fear of not failing, but of embarrassing.
Yeah.
So in the sense of what's embarrassing, well, maybe going out and shooting 82 when you can shoot 72, and everyone thinks that that's what you do all the time. And so it's not even about playing, terrible golf, but playing to a level that's not, that you think is more not to your level. And that fear, that was the biggest fear.
Yeah.
My biggest fear, good story. So I used to play, and I don't play as much anymore, but I used to play a lot of competitive golf. So when I first started in as the head pro, now I have more time. Now I'm teaching, I'm golfing lots.
You're paying people $1,000 a month to.
I'm paying someone $1,200 a month. I give them a raise. So I got 2 guys at $1,200 a month, and now I get to play, and I can practice, and now I start playing more competitively. And over the years, I was fairly good. I won a fair amount of tournaments, particularly in the Deep South tour we had. It was a good tour, and then a few Alberta tournaments as well. But always finished in the top 10 probably. Made the Team Alberta for the Canadian Club Pro Championship 1 year back in the day. And that same year, I believe I qualified for the Edmonton Open. I can't think of the year. I'd have to look back. But anyways, I get to go play in the Edmonton Open. So I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm quite excited. It's at the Edmonton Country Club. I haven't played there. So I'm going to go up. I play a practice round. And now my first round, I'm playing with, I'll never forget, I played with a guy from Lethbridge, Matt Barkway, a good friend of mine. Played lots of golf with him. And we're playing with this college golfer named Graham Dillette. And don't know that guy from Adam, but he's apparently from Saskatchewan and was playing golf at Boise State. So we play the first 2 rounds, and Graham, I go out, I shoot 76. I think Matt was 76. Graham shoots like 68. And then the next round we play again together. So we go out, I shoot 77 or something, kind of grinding. I'll tell you a good story about this. And he shoots like, I think 70 or something. So I don't even know. I look up after, and he's like tied for the lead in the tournament. He's 19 years old. Obviously, he goes on, and I do believe he either won or finished second. I think he might have won that tournament. I have to look back. But Graham Dillette then obviously goes on to become a PGA Tour player. And there was a total difference there. Which sort of told me right then that someone says, well, why don't you ever go try to play? Or maybe you should play the senior tour. I said, no, I think I just played with the guy that is going to play on the tour, and there's a huge difference between the two of us. Yeah. About 40 yards off the tee, and he puts the ball in the hole, not beside the hole. And, so we're playing in this, and I'm playing with him. And at that time, you sort of get nervous, right? Lots of people around. Like this, there's probably 15 or 20,000 people, I'm thinking, there watching all over the golf course. And the Edmonton Country Club, the setup of the Edmonton Country Club, have you ever played there?
I haven't played country club.
Okay, yeah, it's a beautiful golf course. But the 9th tee is a par 3. The 18th green is there. The first tee and the 10th tee. And they're all within, I'm going to say, like 200 yards of each other. The 9th hole is about 175 or 180 yard par 3. And within that, everybody can kind of see everything. And the clubhouse is just off in the yonder. So there's probably, I'm going to guesstimate that there's probably 2,000 people there. 3,000 people on that one
in that
hole,
area.
In that area, like, or more maybe. It's crazy. It's full. But we're about 6 holes left, and I get up on a par 3 and take a shot. And I shank it. Cold hosel, boom, straight right. Hits a tree, kicks back in. I actually get it up and down for par. Crazy. So now we go. We go a couple more holes, and I got a 7-iron in my hand and par 4, and I shank it again. So now I'm like, get me to the house here. I got to get in. Like, I'm getting nervous here and starting to sweat. And of course, I'm trying not to. I know Graham, I don't know how good he's playing, but I know he's playing well. Yeah. Matt's kind of shooting like I am. So we're kind of trying to stay out of his way. Try not to, you don't need a guy that's fighting for the tournament when watching some guy shanking around the golf course. All we're trying to do is get finished here. So we go to another hole. I shank it again. So now I've shanked a 6-iron and 2 7-irons. And the last hole is playing 178, perfect 7-iron. And I am
with a couple thousand people around.
With a couple thousand people. And I've got the fear of freaking God on me. Like, I mean, that was the most nervous. So when you talk about like being in the national championship, playing on TV and in front of 15,000 people at Maple Leaf Garden.
Yeah.
No fear. Yeah. No fear. Just all I can do is think of how am I going to score because this is going to happen. Yeah. And on that hole right there, oh my God. That was the most scared I've ever been to even pull the trigger. So when you think of that, there's a guy just trying not to shank it. Yeah. Of course, I slapped it up by the green, chipped it up. Everyone's clapping. I made pars, like tipped my hat, shook Graham's hand, and got the heck out of Dodge, like that. But I survived that. So he goes on to win. I go on to not win and barely shank my way into the clubhouse. And there's a huge difference in how good those guys are. Yeah.
So like, as you transition to become a head pro, if I scan most of the head pros that that I've known over time, most of them don't continue to fall in love with golf. I don't know that I ever saw Russ Farrell swing a golf club. Carr was a great golfer, but it was fits and spurts for him, right? To play.
Yeah, for sure.
But not you.
Maybe even, you look at Wayne Matson too right now.
Yeah.
I think I was, the privilege I had is working at Redcliff. There was afforded, it was a smaller club, so we weren't quite as busy. We had a range in different times. We not always had a driving range, so there wasn't always the opportunity to teach. And then so your expectation becomes a little bit different. And then as you grow up with these people, of course they're on your board, and sometimes those are the biggest issues, having boards. But they always, I was always able to be around the club, and then so playing golf, I got to play lots still. So I think what happens with guys like that, and myself included, if you don't get to play, your skill or your ability to golf wanes or gets worse, and it becomes that embarrassing factor. So, I think most people would assume that a golf pro can go out and shoot around par or, shoot in the low 70s. So if suddenly you used to be able to do that, but your ability to get out and play because your expectation to work and to do certain things is more, and you have family and you're kind of growing up and you're not getting that chance, you don't want to embarrass yourself. And I think that's where a lot of these guys, that's what happens. So they don't want to go out and shoot 79 and 85 and whatever. So they tend to move away from golf. Right. Where I still had the ability, I was still shooting good and playing, competitive, and had the opportunity to continue to play.
It becomes a vicious circle, right? Like, so you don't want to play because you're not playing well, and you don't play well because you're not playing. So you just fall into that trap, right?
It's kind of like fitness, right?
Yeah.
Like you get out of shape and now you're stuck to a couch, and it's hard to get off the couch, but if you don't want to be stuck to the couch, you got to get off the couch to start working out. But it's hard to work out when you're out of shape. Like it's
and you're not
terrible
gonna,
cycle.
yeah, and you're not gonna get it back. You're not gonna get back to where you were in 2 or 3 weeks.
No,
you're gonna need a couple seasons.
Yeah, and it's a commitment. Yeah. And so for us, or for myself, I was always had that ability. And then, honestly, I think when I went to Connaught, so I moved from Redcliff to Connaught in 2015. And that was sort of the expectation was different. Like you shouldn't golf 7 days a week. You should, be more around and in the shop and doing certain things. So I did golf less. And then I remember my last year at Connaught, before I moved to Desert Blume, I actually only played about 30 rounds of golf. And there was just so much stress the golf course was grinding. Yeah. It was just before COVID. Lots of, basically it was upside down. So you're doing everything you can to make it go. And I think, I look at Glenn Carr, who was there before me. He barely golfed too. Yeah. And then when he went to Chestermere and was the owner of the golf club, he started golfing lots. Like he probably plays more. He probably played more in his last 5 years than he played 15 or 20 years previous combined, right? So.